Hello and welcome to yet another episode of You Are Human with Jagrati. In today's episode, I have Ibrahim Gailani with me. He is a very well known personality in Oman. He is a self taught artist, contemporary artist. He is known for his lectures, for his art workshops, retreats, and of course, his amazing art. Thank you for being here on this show.
Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to sit down and have a discussion with you.
Through this episode, I'm just trying to get to know you a little better because so far I've just known the artist Gailani, but I'm trying to get to know the person Gailani today.
Well, they say be careful what you wish for.
Okay. So, coming straight to my first question. At 29, you were leading a life which is actually a dream for millions.
Yeah.
If people get to know about what you were at the age of 29, people would say, you have arrived. You know this term? You arrived already.
Yes.
You were the director of a company?
I was the director
Yes.
of a company, yes.
You had 2,000 employees. The company had 2,000 employees
Reporting to me.
reporting to you, mashallah.
Yeah.
And you were not happy.
I was miserable.
That success did not translate in your personal happiness.
Absolutely. I was the director of a telecom company, and it was one of the two leading companies in the country, and I was remunerated very heavily. For my age, I was the youngest director, I was quite miserable because I was in a corporate job, and the more I was there, I just felt I was somewhere where I didn't need to be.
When we spoke, we did the Zoom call
Yeah.
while we were talking about this podcast. You mentioned that since a young age, you were always sketching, painting, drawing.
Yeah.
But that did not continue in your early age, when you were growing, in your growing years.
Yeah.
Why?
So for my earliest memory is that I could learn how to paint and draw. I was always artistic. So I mean, even before I could probably write, I would draw, sketch, but it wasn't. It was something which was tolerated by the family, but it wasn't something which was terribly encouraged.
Right.
And in fact, there were instances where they would say, let's put this aside and concentrate on what do you want to become like a real job.
Yes.
I think most South Asian parents, and even I guess parents somewhere around the world these days, try to encourage kids to go for the more sensible option.
Right. Which we don't know how they conclude to being sensible, but yeah.
But being a father now, I can relate to that. If my son comes back and says he wants to become a drummer, I'm going to raise my eyebrows. So I understand where they were coming from. But there was a huge calling for art and for me, and I just felt that I didn't really. I did high school art, but I never pursued it from an art college.
Right.
And I feel that I look at it in two ways, that maybe my art would have developed in a different direction had I continued and professionally learnt art, or maybe the life experiences that I've had has shaped my art to where it is today.
Correct.
So maybe the depth and the gravitas which I've been told that they find in my art would not be there had I not gone through some of the challenges that I did.
True.
And there was a fire to do art. If everything had handed over on a silver platter to me, if I had gotten an art scholarship, and, it would have been a cakewalk. Maybe, this fire wouldn't have been there. So
yes.
I would like to see it in that positive light,
That is amazing, because in life there are so many things that happen. They happen for a reason.
They happen for a reason, and I've been doing a lot of self work of recent. I've been working with a therapist of mine. I'm working with vision boarding and manifestation, and trying to live the life that we should. And I've just realized that, we hold on to our personal history so much.
Yeah.
And there's this sense of victimhood. So if I could tell this, if you had asked me the same question 5 years ago, I would have had a long list of blaming my father, mother, brother, sisters, that I didn't have anybody. Then my art teacher was mean, and I would have blamed everybody except for, that, okay, this is what life dealt me, and
Right.
what do I do from this point onwards?
Correct.
So I'd rather focus on that today.
True.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing. And I think that's the core of You Are Human, this podcast, because we try to focus on the human spirit.
Yeah.
That whatever, as you said, whatever cards you're dealt with, you'd be like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Instead of crying about it and cribbing about it, what best we can make out of the life that we're given.
Yes, so I found myself in Lahore. I was working for a company, and I was a terrible human being. I had morphed into this corporate, cutthroat, shrewd person. I wouldn't blink an eyelid before I could fire someone. I would just be horrible. And the worst thing is, the more horrible I was, the more promoted I
more
got.
successful.
The more to the outside world, the
Right.
more success,
Right.
the shrewder you get, you climb up the ladder very quickly. And I was at a point where I was earning a lot of money. I was spending it with just as much ferocity and anger, because to me it represented a life that I had not really envisioned for myself. Yeah. So then came about a time to change.
Yes. When did that change happen? How did art happen again to you? And then, because today your paintings are so intense and they have so much to speak. They speak for themselves. And today you're a full-time artist.
Well, I would like to say that the universe. You know what that saying, what you seek is seeking you.
Yeah.
And it's said so beautifully in The Alchemist, and then so I believe that everything happens for a reason. And then I just became so big for myself that I would take on these fights, and I had a new boss, and I would just butt heads, and then finally I got fired.
Oh, no.
It was the biggest blessing ever. So I found myself out of a job, and I said, now what do I do? And my wife had said that, okay, you've always wanted to paint, and I believe you have a lot to say.
Right.
So she got me a canvas and an easel and some paints, and said, why don't you start? And by this point in time, I had not touched it in 20 years. And really, the first few paintings I did looked like cartoons, caricatures, and not even the good ones. They looked like, very amateur art.
Right.
And I said, nah. So then I just then sat by myself, and the best thing about being unemployed is you have a lot of time for yourself to reflect on all the positive and negative choices
Right,
you've made.
right.
So I decided to just have a release, and I painted one painting of myself with my eyes closed, and it was just a release, and I think the floodgates just came out, and I just had a release of the first set of blockages that I may
Have within you, yeah.
yeah, there were a lot more blockages over the years that I had to let go of.
Yes.
But that was the point where I really started to paint again. And then with the job that I was doing earlier on, I had traveled to Europe a fair bit. And then I found my creative calling in this city of Berlin. And as Berlin was artsy, it was cool, it was a mix of cultures, but more so, I found a connection with the Berlin Wall, where it had cut up this city into so many different factions, and the city had come together and risen up, and I felt that was my tattered soul cut into different pieces, and somehow it was coming together. So when I stood next to the Berlin Wall, I actually cried and had a sense of, okay, I think I know what the universe is trying to tell me. And so I decided to then do art, and then here I am.
So you resonated with the Berlin Wall.
I resonated with the symbolism of it. I resonated with what it stood for.
Right.
And I've had that sort of connections in a few places in my life where I started to weep.
Right.
It happened there, and as I'm telling you, the hair at the back of my neck is standing because I remember that. It happened 3 times after that. The next time it happened was when I went to the Acropolis in Greece, and I climbed up, and I just was so overcome, and I said, the amount of privilege that I have in terms. I was at an art symposium, and I was with artists, and we were doing an art. It was the Athens Art Festival that we were doing these paintings there for. And I was like, what privilege I have that every dream I want
Right.
has been fulfilled, or I get to live my dream.
Yeah.
And I said, who gets a chance to go to this ancient place in Greece and paint? And I mean, for somebody who was, was probably considered the black sheep of the family, to live their dream and to live their truth, and to have the privilege of going to these places. I was just so overcome with emotion, and I started to cry about that. It's been a few times that's happened. So Berlin Wall was the first of the releases.
Yeah. So I think universe has its own ways of taking us where we belong. And it's not just people. Like for you, places also played a role in changing you and talking to you. Sometimes there's this story, right? That I want God to come and save me.
Yeah.
This guy's drowning, and he's like, I'm a total believer of God, and I want God to come and save me. And then there is a guy going on a boat, and he says, listen, I'll take you. And he said, no, I believe in God. God will come and save me. Then he has this log, a wooden log floating by his side. He doesn't climb on it, and then he dies. Okay, at the end of it, he dies. And then he tells God that, listen, I believed in you, and I was waiting for you, and why didn't you come? And God said, that log, that wooden log was me. The boat that came and the man in there was me, because it was sent by me. So I think it's very important to even recognize it. And Alhamdulillah, and by God's grace, you recognized all those signs. I mean, so many people don't understand what the universe is trying to say.
I mean, the fact that I don't know anybody in Oman, and I was able to find a way to come to Oman. I mean, of course, I grew up in UAE. My parents settled there in the 70s. So I knew where Muscat is and Oman is. But the fact that I had to come here because this is where my art had to restart, or from a commercial sense, from really taking art to the level it had. Otherwise, why else would I have come to Oman? And so I was privileged enough that a job brought me here, and I was very grateful for that job. And then and it was just the most wonderful thing ever.
Yes. Your art has a lot of portraits.
Yes.
And you even mentioned that initially you were letting go of your blockages through your art.
Yes.
How did that then change to you shifting to, doing hardcore portraits that you do now?
So who I've been inspired by was Frida Kahlo. And Frida Kahlo had, they used to call her the original selfie queen. She's the one, she made many self-portraits, and most of her paintings are about personal strife and journey of pain, and I was able to resonate a lot with that. And so when I started to paint, I would paint versions of myself, and it was a healing for myself. So I did a lot of portraits of myself. Initially, if you came to my house, you'd be like, "What narcissistic man?" He has his paintings all over
Just
the
about himself.
place. Yeah, but each one had a message to overcome one of the challenges that I was going through, or one of the dark periods in my life, and that, about my childhood, about my adulthood, about my struggles. And things like that. So when I was dealing with that through art, I was connecting with Frida's philosophy, and so then I started to look at everybody. And even in a social gathering, and I would think about, okay, what is the story behind this
Right.
face? Because as the saying goes, we all wear our lives on our face. If you
Yes.
really pause, the problem is people don't pause and
Right.
observe.
And take notice.
Yeah, but if you really pause and look at people, you will be able to uncover their truth.
Yeah.
And so I started to imagine what is the story behind this person's journey. And so I used to then start taking photographs of people as references and create a story around that. And that's how it morphed into this pop art that I'm now known for, where I do these portraits with these vibrant colors with graffiti at the back. And that has been the journey.
Do you think while you're trying to understand their story and understand their journey, what challenges they've been through and everything, does it tend to heal you?
Absolutely. Every story that I tell of somebody else is a story of myself that I am telling. I'm only able to resonate with someone if I see a part of me in them. There have been people who I have not resonated, and I've not been able to paint them.
Yeah.
There are certain people who there isn't a connection. But if I'm able to see a connection of myself in them,
Yeah.
that's when the painting is magical.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's flat,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
That needs to be there. Like
It
even
needs
for-
to be there.
Even for me with the podcast, I tend to not heal myself or something, but I tend to get inspiration from each and every guest that I meet, because everybody's life has so much to give, and I just try to see, okay, what I can take from this particular person. So just like adding more qualities and personality to myself through the journeys of others.
And I think that is really the case today, is that we need to people are inspired by stories.
Yeah.
And storytelling is an art form which shouldn't die.
Absolutely.
And because we heal through storytelling.
Yes.
I mean, I follow this lovely motivational speaker, Brene Brown, and she talks about shame and vulnerability through storytelling and personal stories. And it is really fascinating that you can connect with a story so much. And that's why I guess we're here to tell our
Yes.
story, and hopefully it connects with somebody out there.
Yes, absolutely.
For anybody for who it says that you can't achieve what you can, it's never too late.
Absolutely. It's never too late. And at the end, we're all stories.
We are all stories.
We're all stories.
We are all stories.
Lastly, I would like to know, are you a grateful person?
My life's principle is gratitude.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the life that I have, because I'm still here. I'm still surviving, and every night I have a gratitude journal. That I write. I write. I'm grateful for 5 things, and as you said, gratitude. I really have become teary-eyed because I think there's so many people whose blessings have looked after me, because I shouldn't, by any logical explanation, be where I am today. Be with the success that I have received by God's grace, or the sanity that I have, I should really be in a mental institution by conventional thinking. But I was able to have a successful career. I was able to have a family. I'm able to be a father. So all of these things, I was able to live life.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that happened, because somebody really looked after me. I do feel that there's an angel, and I believe in spirit animals, and
Oh, you do?
I have one.
Which one is it?
He's a lion.
Oh, nice.
And his name is Ibrahim. And whether it's his name or I named him that, I don't know. But I feel his energy, the lion's energy around. And of course, I feel my great grandfather, who I'm named after, I feel him around me. So I say the blessings of my ancestors are around me. So I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to live the life I'm able to live, because so many don't.
Yes.
So many are not
Yes.
able to pause and take it in.
Yeah.
I manifest this. I wanted to be an international selling artist. I wanted to earn from art. I wanted to be, live life on my own terms. And for everybody who knows me, they know that I do that. So being able to do that, being able to, whatever was my dream, it somehow came about.
Right.
I wanted to exhibit in New York. It happened. I wanted to exhibit in Los Angeles. It happened. I wanted my painting to go to the International Frida Kahlo Art Festival. It went. It just kept happening. I thought about Art Basel, Miami, and I went there. I was like, I cannot be more grateful for the life that I'm living and probably continue to live. It is an amazing life.
Yes, indeed.
And it becomes amazing if you think that it will be amazing.
Correct.
And I feel that, with 2020, everybody just over it. We could look back at this year, last year, and everybody could just bash it.
Yes.
And in fact, I spent half the year bashing it as well, until I paused and said, was it really bad?
Yeah.
Or I was able to do this, I was able to do that, I was able to do this. And maybe the circumstances pushed us all to try something else.
Right.
And maybe that's why this podcast is happening.
Yes, absolutely. Even for me, my podcasting journey started because of 2020. So I would give it all the credit. And of course, with all the negative and the sad thing that has happened, okay, but in general, also in life, we are going to go through challenges. If not a pandemic, there will be something else.
Yes.
And I'm thankful and grateful to this pandemic, because it has made us realize so many important things.
Yes.
The importance of family, the importance of, pausing.
Pausing. It is very important for us to pause. We are always in this fast journey that we really don't, we're not able to pause.
Exactly.
And that's very important.
Yeah. When people hear that you achieved so much, and even right now you said that this is like a dream and you have been achieving all your dreams, people normally ask, what's your secret? Yeah. And I think it's a very not sensible thing. So, what is your secret? It is a mix of a lot of hard work and consistency and everything. So, do you think there's a secret, or is it something just happened with the flow? You took like a decision on a daily basis, or was it?
That's a great question, and there is no magic formula to what happens.
Yeah.
That's the secret. Is that there is no I wish I could just say, somebody overnight discovered me, and no,
Right.
I worked hard.
Yeah.
I worked consistently. I worked to improve myself.
Yeah.
And I worked hard at my craft. I mean, I remember when I had first gone to Abu Dhabi Art, the first time around it had happened. And I had taken my portfolio there to tell everybody, see, I'm this, fancy artist in Oman. And I went there and I looked at all the art and I was like, oh, this is fabulous art. My art is crap. My art doesn't stand up to all of this. And I remember, there was this just brilliant curator of the gallery, Beitul Zubair, Sarah White. She had once come to my art. She didn't do reviews of artists' work a lot, but as a favor to a friend, she had come over and she'd done my art. And she, at that point in time, rightfully so, she was a bit critical about my art. She said, I don't see what you are saying. So I had to pause. And I had to really eat a humble pie because, you think you're the best, right? When you're doing things. And I had to rethink about how I approach it. And what I had to do was work hard, constantly paint, constantly improve yourself, constant techniques, apply to the art shows, put submissions, get rejections from galleries, but keep applying. So none of this just transpired. It was daily going onto the website, looking at artist opportunities. It was taking chunks of time out to paint and hone your skills. And then thirdly, being smart about how you market yourself. So when I started, I had a website. I've had a website since I had just 5 paintings. I have an Instagram account. The way I brand myself, the way I made visiting card. So I manifested it even when I wasn't something big. I had a business card as if I was the top artist. I was. So somebody said, like when I walked into Oman, somebody said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm an artist." And they were like, "Where do we see your work?" I said, "You'll see it in New York." There was no New York. There was no nothing. But I believed. That, and there was this really lovely lady, and she was leaving Muscat, and I had given her a painting as she was going, and she said the sweetest thing to me. She said, you walked in with an air that you were already there, and we all believed it. And I realized that I had manifested this without even realizing the word, because 11 years ago there wasn't this manifestation drive that you see now, and I just believed that I was there. I am an artist, and I became one. So it is that determination. I love this thing which Meera Nair says. She says, I have ridiculous determination. And I believe that I have ridiculous determination. I said, I'm determined that I will succeed. And you have to do the hard work. So determination, hard work, and a lot of hours into your craft. That is, unfortunately, not a secret. It's been an open secret for a long time for people that you have to do the work to get there.
Yes. We all have to do the work to get there.
We have to do the work.
If you want to get anywhere, we got to do the work.